Now that I'm watching this again after going on 2 years of some of the worst behaviors in history, some of the most atrocious and inhumane behaviors of history happening live for technology to show us. We don't just have technology of murder and mass destruction, we have technologies to watch it. So as a species, we've been devolving. There's a lot of hypocrisy, like some of the speeches she says as a Jewish person who has not spoken out against her own government. In these times, it's kind of hard to believe, you know, there's so many Jews with hatred towards almost everyone sometimes. And that means they've lost their way in Judaism, for one thing. But it also means they didn't succeed what other cultures have succeeded at, such as the Japanese. And I'm not saying the Japanese don't have a small fraction of their older populations that are from families that survived the devastation of the nuclear bombs, who wouldn't kind of want to have their revenge, let's say, against the United States of America. It's still possible. But the thing is the fact that Japan has recovered so much shows how much stronger they are than, uh, you know, Israel, right? The Jews who play the victim card, and it's true they were victims. Their ancestors. But to play that card today to do worse to others in front of everybody, and everybody kind of allows it, because they do. We don't have a United Nations when we're going on 2 years of this kind of behavior. The other things that the Japanese succeeded at, because, the Japanese were pretty much surrendering when the US did that to them. And the US did it to them because in, geological time of our species, a fraction of a second before others, they came up with the nuclear bombs ready to go. Fraction of a second, if you're talking about. And what did they do with that? They didn't just do one bomb, they did two, and they did it against an enemy at a time. They just wanted to, get power out of this war. They wanted to take advantage of it. And that's why they're so well aligned with, the government of Israel today and their Zionists that are still in there. And because they want to kind of have power over everything. They want to make everybody fear them. They want to be the bullies of the world while playing the America First or victim card. And really, all of these things are inhuman, right? And we can measure more human type behaviors from so many other species other than our own. And yet we still hesitate, and yet we're still in shock when a researcher presents things that we could have measured for generations now. And we don't, because we suffer from so much human chauvinism that we don't realize how inhuman we are and how it's getting worse. So the Japanese lost, how many tens, I think you're over 100, maybe 200,000. I'll try to write the number from both bombs. It's probably close to 200,000, in one day, right? And the devastation was horrible, and the fear that must have been there. And they learn no more war on that scale, and do not align themselves with others that would, maybe. And yet they're starting to lose those lessons now. They're starting to align themselves with some of the axis of evil of today, right? What's going on with the genocides supported by the USA and countries even like my own, Canada. And Canada's doing it not necessarily because they want to be the bigger bullies of the world, or they have as much hatred for others as, let's say, Zionists do. They're doing it because the elites within the Kaching monetary paradigm still believes that being hypocrites, as Canadians, it's one of the three main cultural patterns of Canadians, hypocrisy, is there's benefits to it. And again, it devolves us. So the fact that the Japanese have achieved so much, and of course it's still a very immature and culture, but the thing is they've learned to kind of keep to themselves on their island, and not worry about everybody around them all the time. So they've grown up, at least in that way. At least they've learned those lessons of history. But they say Netanyahu says, "Oh yeah, we got to make sure nobody ever takes up arms against us again." The thing is, to do that is you can't just have one side with arms, and especially on a planet where weapons are frickin' everywhere now, that it takes almost a supernatural god to control it, or Superman gets them all and throws them in the sun. It's so ridiculous to believe that's even possible for the people that Zionists of today have harmed, and how their families will somehow forgive them because they've had the most victims. Did that work for Zionists? Having a lot of victims as Jews in World War II, did that make them forgive the Nazis? No. These lessons are so simple, and yet only 3 to 5 year olds can learn them. Not people in power, and not famous people like this.